What's going on, everybody? RJ Ochoa here from SB Nation's bloggingtheboys.com. Hope all is well wherever you are. We hope you're happy, safe, healthy, and that you're pumped, that you're ready. This is going to be quite the week for the Dallas Cowboys. It is our official Dallas Cowboys preview show here on the Blogging the Boys YouTube channel. Make sure you do subscribe so you don't miss any of our wonderful videos, any of our wonderful episodes of any of our wonderful shows. We just had a Madden simulation for this week's Dallas Cowboys game drop here on the channel. And on Sunday, after the Dallas Cowboys either win or lose, we'll keep it vague, keep it ambiguous for now. We'll of course be live on our official Dallas Cowboys post-game show here on the Blog of the Boys YouTube channel and on the Blog of the Boys Facebook page. We'll of course podcast that for you as well. But it's time. It's time to have the conversation that we've been looking forward to having basically since the schedule came out. You know, we obviously knew that this game was coming per the NFL's rotational schedule in terms of games and teams and when you play and where you play, et cetera. We have known since 2013, really since 2002, if we're being technical, although there was a little bit of a wonky detail with this team specifically. I'm rambling. Let's get back to the fact at hand. Let's get back to why you are here. The Dallas Cowboys are going to visit the Kansas City Chiefs on Sunday afternoon. This is our preview show. As mentioned, we will speak to Pete Sweeney, who covers the Kansas City Chiefs for SB Nation's ArrowheadPride.com. Pete's a good friend of mine. He and I actually host a national show together every Monday on the SB Nation NFL show called Monday Football Monday. You can hear he and I, like I said, every Monday after all the games on Sunday afternoon, reacting to what happened the day before. But for the purposes of this particular week, Pete and I, of course, talked Cowboys, talk Chiefs. I, did some hits with them on their website, their podcast, their video network and whatnot. So you can check those out as well if you really want a lot of RJ Ochoa content in your life. But speaking of RJ Ochoa, you'll also get my keys to victory for the Dallas Cowboys, what I think they have to do in order to win this game. And we will, of course, as we always do here on the preview show, dive into the film room with Matt Minnick and learn a little bit about which Chiefs we have to pay a little bit more attention to on Sunday afternoon. But now, I want to say first things first, and I mentioned it in our podcast that we dropped where we included this same Pete Sweeney interview, that over the last decade, the Dallas Cowboys have played some dramatic games when it comes to the Sunday before Thanksgiving. In fact, 6 of the last 10 games that the Cowboys have played on the Sunday before Thanksgiving have been won by the Cowboys by 3 points. 4 of those games have been won by game-winning field goals, whether in regulation or in overtime. So my point is this particular team, America's team, kind of has a flair for the dramatic when it comes to the Sunday before Thanksgiving, which is, of course, where we're at. And I think that, we're in line for a really great game. It's going to look awesome. You got great uniforms, great stadium, great environments, an afternoon kick this time of year, which means it's going to be a little bit of sun when it starts. It's going to set. We're going to end up in nighttime. I mean, it's just going to be magnificent, and it's going to be awesome. It's going to be awesome. And, of course, it's going to be all the more fun if the Dallas Cowboys win. So what do the Cowboys have to do in order to do that? Well, we'll talk to Pete Sweeney, like I said. But first, before we do that, first things first, you have to start in the most obvious place, and that is with the Kansas City Chiefs offense. Now, this offense, I realize, has not been their usual selves this particular year. They have not been who we saw throughout Patrick Mahomes' MVP season in 2018, the year they won the Super Bowl in 2019, the year they lost it last season. But, they are still the Chiefs, and I think this is such an interesting week for this game to happen, given that Kansas City is coming off kind of an offensive resurgence when it comes to their performance against the Las Vegas Raiders last week, 5 touchdowns for Mahomes. And it's fair if you're wondering whether that was a one-hit wonder, whether you think that that's who they are. They're going to start sustaining that level of performance. We don't know. We simply do not know. And we're going to find out a little bit, obviously, on Sunday afternoon. But at the very least, what you can take away from last week's game for Kansas City is that that's still in them. They are still capable of being that team. The Cowboys scored 29 points in the second quarter last week against the Atlanta Falcons. And in the blink of an eye, Atlanta went from being down 7-3 to being down 36-3. And Kansas City has that in them. And so the Cowboys have to pay attention to this. I know that sounds obvious, but this has to be a focus. This has to be something that is understood by the Cowboys, that you cannot underestimate this offense. You can't overestimate them. You got to estimate them properly, is my point. You have to be fully aware that you are dealing with an unpredictable, unbelievable, potentially unsustainable level of play on their offensive side of the ball, and you have to be ready for that defensively. You have to be aggressive the way the Cowboys have been defensively, but you can't be reckless. There's a fine line that we've seen them basically kind of balance themselves on throughout the majority of the season so far, and hopefully they continue to do that on Sunday afternoon. Point number 2, Dak Prescott, Kellen Moore. We talked about the relationship between Dak and Kellen on the roundtable this week here on the Blogging the Boys YouTube channel. And we talked about the success that they've had, that the Cowboys have had with Kellen at offensive coordinator, with Dak Prescott at quarterback. Obviously, Kellen took over as OC in 2019. Dak has missed some of those games, obviously, with last year and then the Minnesota game this year. But when Dak and Kellen are operating together, the Dallas Cowboys are arguably the most efficient, most effective offense in the NFL. And if you took all four main components in this game, you took the Cowboys offense, the Kansas City offense, you took the Dallas defense, the Chiefs defense, and you took all those and you ranked them, or you picked one, whatever. If I asked you to pick what is the best one, I'll ask you that right now. I'll let you answer wherever you are. Of those four things, what is the very best quality? 1, 2, 3. There. Got your answer. Appreciate it. You're right. It is the Cowboys offense. That is the best thing in this game. And so if you're going to win this game, and I know that, we can make arguments that this game is not important because it's a team from the other conference, but it feels important. It feels big. It feels epic. We want to win this game. And if you're going to win this game, you need your elite thing to have an elite game and to play at an elite level. That's what you got to do. And Kellen Moore, Dak Prescott, do your thing, man. We believe in you. Do your thing. We believe in you. Point number 3, Mike McCarthy. I'm a big fan of Mike McCarthy. If you have watched a lot of our videos or listened to our podcast, if you follow me on Twitter, I've kind of gone to bat for him more often than not this season. And the description that we've written here for this point is Mike McCarthy can't be emotionally influenced by the weight of the moment. What do I mean by that? I love the way the Cowboys came out and throttled the Atlanta Falcons last week. I do. I love it. I mean, we all loved it. There's nothing to pick apart from the Falcons game, right? Something that we've talked about a little bit in the aftermath of it on our shows, both on our podcast and here, is if you have followed the Cowboys in the Mike McCarthy era, something that they have done that we had wanted them to do under Jason Garrett is when they win the opening coin toss, they defer. We want that, right? That's what we want. That's what football has taught us. We want to kick at first. We want the ball to start the second half. And ideally, we want the last possession of the first half so we can take that double dip. That's what we want. We know that Mike McCarthy loves that. However, in case you forgot, the Dallas Cowboys won the toss last week against the Atlanta Falcons and chose to take the ball. Deviation from who they've been under Mike McCarthy to that point. Now, you look at last week and what was unique about it, what was particular about it that made them want the ball? Well, obviously they were coming off that embarrassing loss against the Denver Broncos. They clearly, as we have found out in the week that followed with the monkey butt story and everything, they clearly wanted to send a message. And you know what? Kudos, guys. You did it. You got the ball. You went down, scored. You scored 29 points in the second quarter. You blew the Falcons out of the water. You sent your message well received, if I could, focus on using words properly. Okay, great. Love that. You did it. You accomplished that. I'm happy that you did it. I enjoyed it as a Dallas Cowboys fan, but I don't want you to take the ball every week, right? And this is a small example, but this is what I'm talking about. There was some emotion involved in that, right? Some emotion of we want to send a message. That's an emotional decision, right? That's not an objective decision. That's an emotionally compromised decision. And it's a fine one. It's a fair one. It worked out for the Cowboys. It's not wrong. It's not improper. What I'm saying, though, is you cannot allow yourself to be swayed by emotion in this game because, like we've said and like we've been saying, it's going to be epic. It's going to be big. You're facing the 2-time defending AFC champions, the team that won the Super Bowl 2 years ago, the best quarterback in the world in Patrick Mahomes, an all-time head coach in Andy Reid. You're on the road at Arrowhead. I mean, this game's going to be viewed by millions and millions and millions of people. And so you cannot say, I want to do this because of this moment, because I want to send a message or something similar, some sort of derivative of that. Does that make sense? And I think that it's unlikely that the Cowboys do that, but it's a point of concern that we want to raise. You cannot allow yourself to become emotionally compromised. And I think something that proves that the Cowboys will not allow that from themselves, that Mike McCarthy will not allow that from himself, is if you recall last week against the Atlanta Falcons, after the Dorrance Armstrong block punt and then the Sean Wright recovery for the touchdown, Cowboys go up 34-3. They go out to kick the extra point. It's good. It's about to be 35-3. We're about to go to the locker room at halftime. We're already celebrating. We're already looking forward to Kansas City, etc. However, there's a penalty on the Falcons, 12 men on the field. And a lot of teams, a lot of coaches, Vic Fangio, maybe from the Denver Broncos, would say, you know what? We already got this extra point. Just tack it on the kickoff. We're good. But Mike McCarthy decides to take that point off the board because, in the world we live in, it's been a long time now since the extra point has been moved back. But in this world, when a penalty in that situation happens and you get the ball at the 2-yard line, the more logical, the more analytically based line of thought says, take the point off the board, go for 2. Your win probability increases if you go for 2. And the fact that Mike McCarthy was able to make that decision and not rest on his laurels and not say, you know what, we got the points, 35-3, whatever, to me proves that he is willing to commit to the idea. He's willing to commit to the disposition. He's willing to commit to this process. And this process is living by what they have decided is going to happen in an objective vacuum. And that's what you have to do. You can't get emotionally compromised. We've seen so many teams in so many big games, so many big moments lose games because they decide to let the moment sway them into one line of thinking that doesn't necessarily make sense. So Mike McCarthy, continue to be you, bud. Continue to be you. I mentioned it. Our special guest that we have today on the preview show is Pete Sweeney from Arrowhead Pride. Pete is the manager, editor-in-chief over at Arrowhead Pride. And like I said, if you like the conversation, you like the flow that he and I have, you can, of course, listen to us every Monday on the SB Nation NFL show. Search for it wherever you get your podcast. Leave a rating, write a review. But for now, let's hear from Pete Sweeney of Arrowhead Pride. We're joined now by the one, the only, the incomparable, the legendary. I say this often, but truly one of my best friends. You can see him, hear him, read him, smell him in all likelihood on the pages, the podcast network, the video properties of Arrowhead Pride, SB Nation's home for Kansas City Chiefs content. You can listen or you can watch our conversation, listen to or watch our conversation on the Blog and the Boys podcast network or here on the Blog and the Boys YouTube channel. It is Pete Sweeney. You can also listen to he and I every single Monday on the SB Nation NFL show on Monday, Football Monday. My PIC, partner in crime, Pedro, it's great to be with you, sir.
Partner in crime, Pete in crime. I actually do smell good today. I went and got a haircut, as I told you, and my barber, my hairstylist, whatever you want to call her, she sold me up on a little bit of beard oil. So I smacked that in a little bit, and I'm smelling good for blogging the boys here today.
You've always been a sharp dressing, young man, 33 years old, not too old. And let's just, let's be good here.
I got some wisdom to me. Yeah.
And a fashionable man. You actually, Pete, you pulled off something. And Pete and I, again, we know each other really well. We were at Super Bowl 54 together, the game to the Kansas City Chiefs won. And you pulled off, Pete, the T-shirt under a blazer look. I mean, it's a difficult thing to land, and you did it. I don't know anybody else that could.
It was hot back in 2019. I feel like that particular look has cooled off a little bit, but I liked it at the time. I thought that was a good look. It was in step.
So you have not graced the in terms of a conversation for the purposes of the Dallas Cowboys. Obviously, we have some snippets from Monday Football Monday sometimes, but you have not graced Blogging the Boys since Cam Irving became a Cowboy. Great conversation that you and I had once upon a time. The Chiefs and Cowboys are kind of intrinsically aligned with one another. You've got some roster, Venn diagram commonalities, Anthony Hitchens, Charvarius Ward, and you got RJ Ochoa and Pete Sweeney. And who could forget, Pete? The PRT, the Preston Road Trophy that is at stake between the Dallas Cowboys, the former Dallas Texans. We got ourselves a big-time matchup going on Monday Football Monday every week. I've taken my shots at the Kansas City Chiefs. I've had my fun. I'm here to atone for that, though, Pete. In an effort to preview this game, I wore my red Blogging the Boys polo as a peace offering. Let's just enjoy this.
I know you may. I didn't know you had a Blogging the Boys polo in red. I guess I'm sort of wearing that weird blue the Cowboys kind of wear. So we evened out here, and it's a good place to be. You should go out of your way to get your karma right after all the trash that you've got the Kansas City Chiefs.
I regret nothing. I regret how sad I made you, but I regret nothing else. Beyond that, it is time for the Cowboys-Chiefs game. Very different than what we thought it was going to be when, we knew these teams were going to play. But, when we first looked at the schedule, I think a lot of people, Pete, thought this would be an opportunity maybe for the Cowboys to announce themselves to the world, to go to Arrowhead, to beat a Super Bowl contending team. Obviously, this season hasn't necessarily unfolded in that way. The Cowboys have looked like the better team. The Cowboys have been a team that many people think could be playing in the season's final game, whereas the Chiefs now are looking for that opportunity to come back from last week, big-time win over the Las Vegas Raiders, 41-14. Real teams, by the way, Pete, beat their division rivals 41-21 on primetime this season. That's what the Cowboys did to the Eagles. An impressive victory, though, nonetheless. Is this what every Cowboys fan thinks it is? Every Cowboys fan thinks that the Chiefs are coming into this saying, we have to have this because we have to send a message to the rest of the world that we're back.
I don't know if that's necessarily it, but there was a long time here where it was the consensus the Kansas City Chiefs had just completely fallen off. And it was a shame going into this game. And I think that game last week was important in reestablishing what this game is. I know the Chiefs had gone through struggles and they are far from the top of the conference right now because they have already lost 4 games. You have the Titans sitting up there with 2 losses. But I think last week's, I should say, performance on Sunday Night Football realign this game to 2 contenders. I do feel like people have come and put the Chiefs back into what would be the contender category. And I do think that you'll see at least some people floating out Super Bowl preview, and no further evidence than that of if you go to DraftKings Sportsbook, the Chiefs are actually favored in this game, which I really do not think would have been the case had it not been for their performance against the Raiders last week.
Yeah, I wonder what that line would have been if the Cowboys are coming off that Broncos loss this week instead of last week. I mean, it might have been a little bit larger.
Same thing. Yeah, same type of thing.
Right. DraftKings Sportsbook, by the way, our sponsor over on the SB Nation NFL show. You can sign up with code SBNNFL, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. But okay, Pete, so Kansas City's favored. Does that feel, it's a heavy word, does that feel fraudulent to you? Do you feel like the Chiefs are maybe the better team? Do you feel like what we saw last week is sustainable, or is the jury still out? I mean, do you not know how to feel? Because I think that's where a lot of people are at. That a lot of people think this could be a Super Bowl preview. This could be this massive back and forth, but it's so hard to know because of how inconsistent Kansas City's been.
Right. I think it's hard to tell whether or not this spread is legitimate because we don't know if last week was just a 1-week thing. For more games this season, the Chiefs have looked like a middling team as opposed to this dominant team that we saw last week and that we saw in previous years. I actually think the spread is wrong. I think if I were making this, I probably would be a straight pick 'em. And that's only because the game is being played at Arrowhead Stadium. I think these teams are a lot closer than even a 2.5 point spread, especially playing on the road for the Cowboys, who have generally speaking played better than the Kansas City Chiefs. If you take away that Broncos game that kind of came out of nowhere, the whole monkey butt situation, it got to Kansas City as well. So I think it's more of a pick 'em to me than it is the Chiefs should be being favored at all. So if you're just a bystander, if you're on the outside looking in and you don't really care about this game and you found your way to blogging with the boys, I would take the Cowboys with the points because I think the margin could be that close.
So I want to get to the defensive side of the ball in a little bit because that's clearly where the weakness is for this team. You know, although the offense certainly has had its struggles, but where would you say the strength is right now? Is it on offense? Do you feel like the offense has bounced back enough to where, you know, this Cowboys defense isn't great? And that's a take that Cowboys fans, you know, are upset about. They're very opportunistic, but they can be had. And so do you feel like the strength of Kansas City's opportunity in this game lies with Patrick Mahomes beyond the obviousness of him being Patrick Mahomes?
Well, I think Mahomes is going to have to play well for them to win. You can't have a reversion back to what he was earlier in the season. It has to be that Mahomes version that we saw against the Las Vegas Raiders, because even with the Chiefs defense playing well the past 3 games, we know that Dak Prescott and company is going to put up points. It feels a lot like a shootout type of game for me. And I think it comes to, in the end, which defense digs deep, because the Chiefs defense, you can make the case this stretch, they've looked good. They looked terrible at the beginning of the year, but they've looked good. Which good defense can get a key stop against a great offense? And I think that's the type of game this is going to be. I tend to project it going into the 30s, maybe even the winning team gets into the 40s. That's the type of game that I see. And it's not going to mean that the Cowboys defense or the Chiefs defense is suddenly bad again. I think it's just going to be a matter of, okay, you're playing some of the best offenses in football so long, again, as if the Chiefs can repeat what they did last week. You know, there is a sort of a blueprint out there to figure out what the Chiefs do. I think it helps that, you know, what Quinn and Bradley do is a little bit similar. And so maybe that can play into the Chiefs' hands a little bit to stay with the Cowboys. But yeah, I think the game comes down to which good defense stops a great offense in a big spot in the fourth quarter.
I was going to save this question for near the end, but I've decided to completely change my my line of questioning here while I have you on the stand. Would you say this is the best team, or this? Would you say this is the most anxious that Chiefs fans have felt entering a game this season? And I realize there's different context for different games going into Baltimore or Tennessee or Buffalo. There's the context of, conference relevance. This game can come back to hurt us if we lose when it comes to playoffs and whatnot. But would you say this is I guess maybe the largest opportunity that Chiefs fans have felt to kind of feel good about themselves, especially with Kansas City being on bye next week? It's Thanksgiving. I know you got some plans to see, the Sweeney clan. Is this an opportunity then to get this big win and then have, I believe this would be 4 in a row, off of 2 opponents that, certainly looked like playoff contenders early on, to be a little bit kind to the Raiders, and then head into Thanksgiving holiday, the break, the bye, etc., and feel really good about yourselves before you come back for the stretch run?
I think it's less about nervousness. I think Chiefs fans were especially nervous after the Titans game, where the Titans blew them out of the water, and they really felt vulnerable that maybe they could lose to teams like a Washington football team or a Green Bay Packers without Aaron Rodgers or a New York Giants on Monday night. I think you had some of that nervousness. Nervousness isn't the word. I think it's opportunity, and that seems to be the word. Yeah, I'm going to tell you right now, if the Chiefs are able to beat the Cowboys heading into this bye with 4 straight wins, you're going to hit that button, and it's going to be Chiefs mania in Kansas City. And RJ, I don't think it's going to be in Kansas City. I actually think it'll be a full embrace of the Chiefs back to that stature nationally. And that speaks to what the Cowboys have been able to do this year. We went into the season, I think even you can be honest in saying you did not expect to be in this place where people were considering the Cowboys as Super Bowl contenders at this juncture. But to the Cowboys' credit, they've built themselves here. And now this game becomes massive. You go to schedule night, you're just counting this as a win for Kansas City. It is not necessarily that. I called it a pick-up earlier. And so this is a big-time game. The Cowboys have earned that. And now, yes, it'll be such an accomplishment if the Chiefs are able to take care of business at home, win 4 straight, suddenly be 7-4 after being 3-4. You get the bye week. People in the NFL know about Andy Reid and his wizardry after the bye, so you almost assume that that's 8-4 at that point, and you have the whole rest of the schedule in front of you. And if these AFC teams at the top kind of slip up a little bit more, who knows what happens? So this is a monumental game, probably the biggest game of the season for the Chiefs. Less about being nervous, more about the opportunity.
You're right. And obviously, again, for anybody listening or watching, Pete and I talk about the NFL every week on Monday Football Monday. Certainly encourage you to listen to that. Pete is a delightful person to talk to. We'll put it that way. And I think that I don't want to speak. I don't want to speak for every Cowboys fan, because I would never do that. I would never have the audacity to speak for a wide group of people. But I feel like, if I don't think there's a single football fan alive outside of maybe an AFC West team that just kind of has this, grudge against the Chiefs over the last, however long it's been. I don't think anyone's willing to take the Chiefs for granted, or to pass them, or to consider them an automatic win. But I do think there's this sector of Cowboys fans that is a little maybe disappointed, because I think everybody wanted that shot. Everybody wanted to go into Kansas City and kind of slay the big bad wolf. And so that does just kind of speak to the weirdness that this season has been for Kansas City and for Dallas, to your point about them being a little bit more above the trees than anybody thought they would be entering the year. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's been a change. It's been a change for the Chiefs as well, in the sense of they hadn't really been beaten besides in the Super Bowl in a long time in the regular season, and unfortunately just came out and did. And so it's taken a little bit of the mystique and the challenge away, and the accomplishment in a sense, and what it's done. And I think it's been a positive for Kansas City. It's made them underdogs to an extent. Julian Edelman used to get made fun of for that us against me type of mentality after the Patriots won 6 Super Bowls. But that is easy to kind of get behind. That is, okay, we're just trying to continue our dominance and stay at the top of the hill. And I do feel like that's given the Chiefs a little bit of an edge, a little bit of a motivation factor to play for a long time. It was sort of just assumed that the Chiefs were going to win every Sunday during the regular season. Chiefs are probably going to win. And the numbers showed that, right? Now you get to a point where it's not guaranteed anymore. And I think it's motivated the players, and it's made the game, probably, as you're saying, from the Dallas standpoint, if you win, it'll be a great win on the road against the back-to-back AFC title, but it's not the same as beating an undefeated team or a team with 1 loss.
Pete writes the post-game recaps over at arrowheadpride.com. Certainly something you want to check out after this game to hear and see what he has to say about how this ultimately unfolds. And Pete, say the Chiefs lose. What will you have written about in your recap? Like, what would have been the reason why Dallas did go to Arrowhead and get a win and stop this winning streak?
Such a lonely day, and it's mine. It's the loneliest
what
day
song is
of
this?
my life.
I don't know
I
what
think
song
it's,
this is. I really don't.
I think that was actually Metallica one. No,
I
I think
I
it
was
would.
gonna guess it was Gavin DeGraw. That was so far off on
I
just saying
think
that
yeah,
song.
it's one of Metallica's slow songs. No, I would try to remind fans and talk them down a little bit and just remind them that they're playing what is a Super Bowl contender, I would guess. Now it's hard to say that now. It just depends on the type of game. That's kind of a more of a heartbreaker review, which is like in the sense of these teams are battling back and forth and the Cowboys want to shoot. I think that's the angle in which the Cowboys come away and win this game is in a shootout fashion. And so it would be, talking Chiefs fans down and saying, look, this is one of the better teams in the NFL. And you may see them. And that would sort of be, if it's a blowout, then it's a different story, but it's just hard to predict the type of game that you get. I just don't see that happening in Kansas City. Maybe I should be wrong about that, but that's kind of just how I feel.
That was the alarm on my phone. Metallica calling in because they have the rights to that song. They're getting pissed off they were using it.
It's a shame. I mean, every lead singer, I can obviously do that for them.
Rank these likelihoods, Pete, for me in terms of most likely to least likely. Kansas City wins in a blowout. Kansas City wins in a close one. Dallas wins in a close one. Dallas wins in a blowout.
I think it goes close one. For me, it's Kansas City, Dallas. I saw an offense that I haven't seen in a long time, and I got to think that they're able to keep it up against Dallas. So Kansas City close, Dallas close. Then I would actually go Dallas blowout and then Kansas City blowout. I don't think the Chiefs have a lot of a good team in them at that juncture. I might feel that way toward the end of the season. I could see a Dallas coming in. And it just being a case of now the Raiders have sort of fallen off, and that was an aberration. I think that's a little bit more likely than the Chiefs blowing the Cowboys out at home.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's well said. What is the non-Daniel Sorensen thing that you think the Cowboys will pick on Sunday?
It's a good question.
Thank you. Good asker.
Sorensen's been the guy that they go to through the air. I would say, the Chiefs, they actually have done a good job against running backs, but they have struggled when it comes to when quarterbacks choose to scramble. Not to say that Dak is doing that a ton or as much as he was prior to the injury, but I could see that having some damage. Timely runs from quarterbacks can kill the Chiefs in big spots, and we haven't seen that in a couple of weeks. The Chiefs have been able to shore that up a little bit, and so I'll say that it's more of the run defense against the prospect of a quarterback taking off if Dak is willing to do that. Other than Sorensen, the Chiefs defense has been pretty good. Ben Neiman, number 56, second level, the linebacker is another potential target, but he's seeing less time now that the linebackers are healthy, so you got to feel pretty good about the Chiefs defense other than those two players.
The Preston Road Trophy is on the line between the Cowboys and the Chiefs, but something bigger and much more important is at stake. I would say it's a recurring bit that we do on Monday Football Monday, Pete, but we did it twice, and we really need to do it more, honestly. Pete and I have a burrito bet, a Chipotle burrito on the line here. So in closing, Pete, if you were to win, how would you dress your Chipotle burrito? You get in line. I want to know what you're putting on it.
Yeah. So normally I'll try to get a bowl, and more even recently.
Right. That's the vet move, but I mean, didn't sound as cool as burrito bet.
Right. I'll try to get a salad. Right. Because I'm on a diet, but let's just assume that that's not the case. I'm there, and this is something I'm going to put on social media, right? Because man, the Chiefs beat the Cowboys. It can only happen once every 8 years or whatever it is. So yeah,
not anymore with the 17th game, but you're right.
We're going half double chicken, half double steak, white rice, brown rice, black beans, pinto beans, lettuce, all the salsa, all the cheese, sour cream, guac is extra, put extra guac on this thing. This is a win over the Cowboys. So this would look like a bowling ball before I was done with it.
Pete grew up in New York, the Bronx. Pete lived at the Statue of Liberty. Grew up a fan of the New York Football Giants, so he wants this one.
I did grow up rooting for the G-men. I feel like I'm more of an unbiased guy now. I know a lot of people be like, "No, you're a Kansas City homer."
Well, then somebody mentioned Trey Young, and your New Yorker comes out.
I've told you this before, RJ, but I'll share it here. My biggest fandom, maybe in the NFL team period wise right now, is probably just anyone playing the Cowboys. So this would be a sweet victory. I've never been a fan of that fan base or that franchise that you root for.
You've said it all, Pete Sweeney. The manager,
I need to do this
editor-in-chief,
for you, though. I love everything else
boss
about
man.
you know that.
Again, model extraordinaire from Arrowhead Pride. You can hear him on the radio in Kansas City. And I've said this before to our coworkers and the like. If you're not watching this, if you're only listening to it on the podcast, you need to go see this on the YouTube channel, because Pete Sweeney was literally voted one of the most fashionable people in the metropolis of Kansas City, Missouri.
Man, too blessed to stress, really.
Pete Sweeney, wish you health, wealth, and happiness, but just a little bit of rough work when it comes to covering this game on Sunday night. Thanks for joining us.
Happy Thanksgiving, Dallas.
Want to give a big time shout out, big time thank you to Pete Sweeney for taking the time to join us here on the preview show. I also want to apologize for Pete's internet. That's all on Pete. It's not on me. It's not on my issue here. Pete's internet was laggy. So on Twitter at PG Sweeney, if you want to attack him for that. We'll see how things fare, obviously, on Sunday. It's going to be a very interesting game. Pete's obviously confident in the Chiefs. Lots of questions that we all have in terms of how this game is ultimately going to unfold. To get a bit of a more deeper understanding on who the Chiefs are, what they present, it's now time to dive into the film room with Matt Minnick to, like I said, take a look at which Chiefs we need to pay a little bit more attention to on Sunday afternoon.
This is a matchup that we all circled before the season started. Both the Cowboys and the Chiefs are incredibly talented offensively, but the Chiefs have been disappointing so far this season. Let's take a look at some of the offensive firepower that will challenge the Cowboys this weekend. Tyreek Hill is one of the most dynamic players in the NFL. His speed makes him a matchup nightmare for any team. In this clip, he takes an inside release. The corner reaches and is completely off balance. He doesn't have a prayer as Hill cuts back to the sideline, and Mahomes tosses the ball his way for a big gain. The Cowboys defense needs to stay on top of Hill and not allow him to have big plays like this one. The only thing more difficult than trying to cover Travis Kelce is bringing him down once the ball is in his hands. This 3rd and 2 chip release was just intended to move the chains, but Kelce turned it into a lot more, breaking multiple tackles along the way. It will be interesting to see how the Cowboys decide to cover Kelce. Will they rely on a zone defense with safety help over the top? Or could rookie linebacker Micah Parsons be up to the task of covering Kelce man-to-man? What makes Patrick Mahomes so dangerous is not just these weapons, and it's not just his massive arm. It's his ability to escape the pocket, buying time for the big throw downfield. That's what he did on this play. He started to the left, then seeing the Raiders defenders react, he took off up the middle. But he didn't really take off, did he? He kept his eyes downfield and threw a rocket back across his body 38 yards for the touchdown. So how can the Cowboys stop that? The solution is simple, but it isn't easy. The pass rusher's goal shouldn't be to get the sack. It should be to cut off all escape routes for Mahomes. The edge rushers must stay disciplined outside of the offensive tackles, collapsing the pocket until it's snapped shut on Mahomes, while the interior defensive line prevent him from escaping up the middle. Although the chip block from the running back pushes the defensive end inside on this clip, it gives a pretty good idea of what it looks like when the quarterback has nowhere to go. The Chiefs are not having a great year, but Mahomes, Hill, and Kelce are immensely talented. The Cowboys defense will have its hands full on Sunday. But if they can keep Mahomes in the pocket, it will go a long way towards shutting down this offense.
Big time thank you to Matt Minnick for taking us into the film room. Truth be told, it got a little bit dark outside while I've been putting this whole thing together. So we've turned on the lights, and that's what's going to have to happen in this game. Like I said, it's going to get dark at Arrowhead. It's going to be a beautiful game. It's going to start off, like I said, a little bit of setting sun. They're going to go into the locker room for the half, and then they come out. It's going to be maybe not pitch black, but it's going to be dark, and they're going to have to turn on the lights at the stadium. It's going to be awesome, just like we did here. In fact, I'm going to tell you, we did it on purpose. Just pretend I didn't say anything I did, and we did it on purpose to properly simulate what this game is going to look like. If you're going to be at the game, let us know. We always love to retweet and share photos of people there. We're on Twitter at Blogging the Boys, on Instagram at blogging.the.boys. But if you're going to be watching it, well, a lot of people are going to be watching it. This game is America's game of the week on Fox. The 7-2 Dallas Cowboys visit the 6-4 Kansas City Chiefs, as we've been discussing this entire time. Sunday is, of course, November 21st. The game is at 3:25 p.m. Central Time, the time zone I live in, but 4:25 if you want to be, one of those East Coast people. Like I said, on Fox, Joe Buck, Troy Aikman, Aaron Andrews on the call if you want to watch it. They only show up for big-time games. It's going to be awesome. If you want to listen to the game, you can on the home of the Dallas Cowboys, 105.3 The Fan. You get Brad Sham. I was going to say Brad and Babe Loffenberg's name at the same time. Brad Sham, the GOAT, Babe Loffenberg, and Christy Scales if you want the radio broadcast. The time has come for me to give you my score prediction. What do you think? What do you think? What's your score? What you got? Interesting. Okay. I heard what you said. And I agree. Dallas Cowboys win this game. 37-33 is my pick. I think we're seeing a lot of points. I think this is an all-time game. It's an all-time moment. I think we're really just going to have a lot of fun, and I hope that this sends us all into Thanksgiving week just kind of, feeling good. Feeling good. I've said it it got awkward. I said it too many times. It got awkward. But 37-33, depending on when or where you look, right now the Dallas Cowboys at the time of the recording here are 2.5-point underdogs against the Kansas City Chiefs. A reminder that the Dallas Cowboys are, not so bad against the spread. In fact, the Dallas Cowboys have only lost one game against the spread. The Cowboys have played 9 games. They're 8-1 against the spread this season. We'll see if they can get that 9th win against the spread, that 8th overall win. Next week's going to fly. So if you haven't, please do subscribe here to the Blog on the Boys YouTube channel. Like I said, we'll have the post-game show on Sunday afternoon. On Monday, we'll have highlights from the game, but we're starting warp speed into preparation for the Thanksgiving Day game against the Las Vegas Raiders. So, we'll be seeing a lot of each other in the coming days. So let's have some fun. Let's enjoy it. Hope you enjoy the game however you're going to watch it. Let's get win number 8. My name is RJ Ochoa. You can follow me on Twitter or Instagram at RJ Ochoa. Thank you so much for checking out our preview show. Let's get this dub. We love you all, everybody. We'll see you next time.